This is your WWF news of a Thursday evening. Now, regarding the Middle East conflicts, Aviano, which happens to be one of those military bases which Americans use for their military operations, is just a springboard. It's just an aircraft. Italy's an aircraft carrier for these things, and this base is called Aviano. And obviously, Aviano is notoriously known for keeping nuclear missiles, I should say. And there's been a whole series of flights, 23 so far, towards the Middle East. And even if in the Italian tabloids it's been going on this thing, this defence agreement with Israel is suspended or revoked, God knows what the bloody hell's going on. But seeing there's a lot of military and defence interests of Italian companies down there, like Leonardo, there's run back to a free, which are in various military fields of defence down there. And it's a part of the general, manoeuvres. They're building up military assets. They're going to attack Iran again. And probably I think they're going to hit them hard this time round. Some say it will be some type of what you would call it, how do you say, ground, boots on the ground, which is a suicide military operation. It will just turn into a bloodbath for the Americans. And also this so-called blockade by the Americans, is it really working or not? They say they turn around a ship. There's stories this Chinese shadow ship with an African country flag on it managed to pass by and it managed to fool the Americans. It's controversy and all that. And we have one of the chief what you would call it, saying they shouldn't buy oil from Iran, otherwise these sanctions. I think that's a little bit too late, because in these few years the Chinese have been stocking up on a hell of a lot of things, and God knows how big their petrol reserves so far it is. It's beyond calculation. It's a very big country, and obviously these sanctions is just a load of bullshit to buy to convince the public they are in control of this situation. They're not in control. They don't know what to do. The so-called naval blockade fort is going to stop. Stopping ships going to and fro to Iranian ports. Interfering with other countries' trades with Iran. I think Russia and China have made it pretty clearly, spell it pretty clearly to the Americans and Israel regarding two attacks on their infrastructure. One, the Chinese railway service, which they made, which was completed last year, which the Israelis attacked. Incredibly, they done. And a port on the Caspian Sea in the north of Iran, which happens to be a Russian asset. And obviously you've got Medvedev, the mouthpiece of the so-called Russian Council. It's saying these negotiations of peace is just time for the Americans to buy time, and for the Israelis to prepare to do another attack. First time you hear it say, I'm going to send the Iranians into the Stone Age. Another petty threat of mass destruction. Then you want to negotiate with them. I think the Iranians are no one's fault at this point. I think they never did. And they were preparing for this moment. They knew this time was going to come, but they're not like other countries which probably Israel and America tried over conquered and destroyed. They have allies. They have China and Russia, which helps the military in a certain way, and in other ways as well. It doesn't explain how, with so much accuracy, the Iranians know where to hit and using what type of ornaments and weaponry systems for those targets. Must have a really superb intelligence machine. They must have access to satellites, whether it's the Russians or the Chinese, which are passing on information regarding satellites. Obviously, it is in the interests of China and Russia, Iran, because once Iran goes down, one of the two could be the next one to come down. And so the fact is, America leaving Europe and NATO is a load of bullshit. They're going to leave the hot potato of Ukraine for the Europeans to do. And probably explains why the military spending of each nation's doubled in this year so far, with 2.5% of GNP, and it's 5%. The fact is, Europe, they are preparing for war with Russia in some way. You would have these generals and politicians in certain countries telling the various civilian structures like military, police and hospitals, get ready for a transition into war. All these simulations, how to deal with mass casualties from the war front, like Italy, France and Germany so far. Now probably the United Kingdom may do something similar. That means they are preparing for war. And obviously, most people do not know about this thing, if they're going to end up directly in a war or not. Time will tell. And obviously this blockade of the Hormuz Strait, which is Iranian territory water, I don't think you see a warship from Israel or America there, because they would have the right to open fire on it, the Iranians. Mind you, they're probably more down for dissuade anyone who goes into a Iranian port to unload merchandise, whether it's oil or any other type of thing, or take on board oil and go to another destination. A naval blockade is an act of piracy, and it is also an act of war. The Iranians know it, the Chinese know it, and Russians know it. But mind you, they are studying the failures and weak spots of the Americans, which will probably come in handy for the Chinese and Russians when they do eventually engage. Who knows when? And the thing is, if Europe has to go to war with Russia, technically speaking, it's not ready. They haven't got the numbers, the field of uniforms, or the necessary hardware to go to war with them. 5 to 10 years could be minimum, shape. I don't think Russians will wait that long. They're just sitting there having a good old laugh. How stupid the West is. Or the West is playing the card of being weak, and otherwise they're demonstrating to be strong. Who knows? But so far, it's like this situation. But we could expect in the near future another attack on Iran, yes. Seeing all the military build-up in that part of the world, the Middle East, and I don't think China and Russia can't allow Iran to go down, because it will be them afterwards which the Americans will go after. And this is slowly exploding into World War III scenario. Probably, who knows, something like a false flag event from the Western American and Israeli sides to give them the real motive, the legal right to declare war and go in. This is their typical tactic, which they've always used in various war scenarios against countries who are non-nuclear. And who knows whether Iran has secretly somewhere working nukes. And there's talk about the Dimora reactor in Israel, which has been hit. It could be some horse shit, or it could be the real deal. If it was the real deal, talking about leakage of radiation, and depending what direction the wind blows, it could be affected by this radioactive wind. In the end, if it turns out to be true, there's a lot of fog of war out there. It's difficult to distinguish what is true, what is bullshit.